We need to talk about what's going on in LA. But first, let's talk about how Trump activated the National Guard with no accommodations for where these people were going to stay, to make sure they had food and water, to make sure they had bathroom access. We have a commander-in-chief that's never been part of the military. He probably doesn't even have any strategy that could win him a checkers game, yet he's sitting up here having access to the military. And like the person that posted this says, odious oranges homeless encampment in LA. And that was the National Guard. And now he's also deployed the Marines. And we're going to talk about the Marines in just a moment. Before I get to the Marines, I want to continue to talk about this National Guard situation. It was described as wildly underprepared. National Guard troops seen sleeping on floors in exclusive photos. Trump's rush to deploy California National Guard troops to LA has left dozens of soldiers without adequate sleeping arrangements, forced to pack together in one or more federal buildings, resting on floors of what appear to be basements or loading docks, the Chronicle has learned. The state troops federalized by the Trump administration over the weekend to confront immigration protesters without the approval of Governor Gavin Newsom were wildly underprepared, said a person directly involved with the deployment, who asked to remain anonymous because they were not authorized to speak on the issue. Think about how our enemies around the globe are watching this situation play out. That we have a commander-in-chief that has the brain capacity of a goldfish, a dying goldfish. And that is no disrespect to goldfish. I'm sure that they're probably amazing. But he has the brain capacity of a dying goldfish. And this is what he is doing. He can't even deploy the National Guard and make sure that they have some sandwiches and some water. That's how wildly inept the commander-in-chief is. This is what America has voted for, ineptitude. Gavin Newsom has filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump. This is his tweet that's pinned. It says, Donald Trump is behaving like a tyrant, not a president. By turning the military against American citizens, he is threatening the very core of our democracy. I'm asking the court to immediately block these unlawful actions. All right, so the lawsuit says Gavin Newsom in his official capacity as governor of the state of California versus Donald Trump in his official capacity as president of the United States. Pete Hegseth in his official capacity as secretary of the Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Defense. And what's going to be crazy about this is if Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and the Department of Defense lose. Because obviously when they deploy military, when they deploy the National Guard specifically, the National Guard is supposed to be deployed from the state unless certain things are hit. Like there was an actual threat from another country, or if there was an insurrection, there are certain parameters that have to be met. And in court, they will have to say that these are the parameters that were met that provoked us to send out the National Guard. So this whole court case, this is going to be interesting to watch. Back in February of 2024, Kristi Noem posted a tweet saying if Joe Biden federalizes the National Guard, that would be a direct attack on states' rights. And Gavin Newsom reposted that yesterday saying, this aged well. I've talked about this live social post from Donald Trump already, and it is very clear that what he wants to do is provoke the people of Los Angeles, provoke the people in California, because he does want to declare martial law. That is the reason why he is sending out troops. That's the reason why he activated the National Guard and he sent out the Marines, because he wants to declare martial law. So he posted this saying, if they spit, we will hit. This is a statement from the President of the United States concerning the catastrophic Gavin Newsom inspired riots going on in LA. The insurrectionists have a tendency to spit in the face of the National Guardsmen and women and others. These patriots are told to accept this. It's just the way life runs, but not in the Trump administration, unless it was the first Trump administration when the insurrectionists took over the Capitol. When they did that, it was perfectly fine for them to kick and hit and take the lives of people in the Capitol. But this is Trump now trying to declare martial law. All right, he says, but not in the Trump administration. If they spit, we will hit. And I promise you, they will be hit harder than they have ever been before. Such disrespect will not be tolerated. So now we know that the MAGA influencers and Fox News, the propaganda arm of the Trump administration, will be running with, if they spit, we will hit. They will be running with it because they get their talking points and then they run with the propaganda. They have a propaganda machine, just like Schnittler and the Nazis when they were sending out the Gestapo. They have a whole propaganda machine, the Trump administration does, because they are trying to declare martial law.
When I say that martial law won't work in the United States, I don't mean that Donald Trump won't try it. He'll absolutely try it. He's currently trying it. He's just also currently finding out why martial law doesn't work in the United States. Because all of those blue cities that he wants to crush resistance in and get them to bow down to him, all of them have a population that is bigger than the United States military and the United States law enforcement's total numbers combined. If he wants to institute martial law in an effort to crush dissent against him in these blue cities, he will only be able to occupy one of those cities at a time. Even if he attempts to, deputize citizens who are loyal to him, they're not going to be able to hold the line. This isn't an issue of, loyalty or willpower. This is an issue of logistics. It doesn't matter if he wants to pull it off. It doesn't matter if the people who control him want to pull it off. The numbers simply aren't there. Also take into account the fact that the United States military has not met its enlistment goals for something like the last 10 to 15 years, and its numbers have continually dropped for that same amount of time. The only reason the United States military very technically met its enlistment goals for this year is because they lowered the numbers required to meet that goal to make it look like their enlistment is going better than it actually is. Again, they're still able to do fascist and horribly dystopian shit with the numbers they have, but martial law is not currently within the realm of possibility. Hell, he ordered 2,000 National Guardsmen to California. Only 200 got there. If it's the case that the rest haven't shown up because they're still just on the way, all you're doing is giving your opposition time to prepare for them. What this is Donald Trump has faced massive humiliations 3 times in the past 2 weeks, and he is desperate to try and look tough. So he's going after a city that his political base has a well-known hatred for and trying to look like he's purging that filthy blue city. That's because he knows if he doesn't do something to look tough right now, his followers will start to see him as weak and his support will start to crumble. He is trying to distract his base from the fact that the richest man in the world accused him of being in the Epstein files. He's trying to distract from the fact that the richest man in the world is threatening to primary anyone who supports him. And he is doing this to distract you from the fact that he is now being called Taco Trump because Trump always chickens out. This is a temper tantrum by a bully who is scared that people are no longer afraid of him.
Now let's talk about the Marines coming into LA. All right, so this is from Reuters. Marines arrive in LA under Trump orders as protests spread to other cities. Hundreds of U.S. Marines arrived in L.A. overnight, and more were expected on Tuesday under orders from Donald Trump, who has also activated 4,000 National Guard troops to quell protests despite objections from California Governor Gavin Newsom and other local leaders. The city has seen days of public outrage since the Trump administration launched a series of immigration raids on Friday, though local officials have said demonstrations on Monday were largely peaceful. About half of the roughly 700 Marines that Trump ordered to LA arrived Monday night, with the remaining troops will enter the city on Tuesday, a U.S. official told Reuters. The U.S. military did not immediately respond to a request for comment. So here's a person talking about what's going on the ground. He's posting on Threads. His name is Johnny Palmadessa. He says, here's what's happening on the ground in LA. The protests began peaceful. Trump kettles everybody into a corner and tear gas them. The peaceful protest either disperses in fear or become less peaceful through anger and pain. He's doing this on purpose. He's absolutely doing this on purpose because he is embarrassed by all of the things that have been going on lately, that he now needs to try to take control of his image, which is looking quite weak and ineffective. Flaccid, I would say. Johnny continues with, while documenting protests in LA, I've been tear gassed, pepper sprayed, and shot at with rubber bullets. Donald Trump wants to scare us journalists out of the area so he can do real damage without people seeing the truth. I won't be scared away. I will keep speaking the truth. And then Cindy at the bottom says, yup, no witnesses to prove how his little schnozzy soldier boy is beating up people. So I don't know if y'all have seen this video with this reporter getting pew-pewed by rubber bullets. But that is what the Trump administration wants to do. They want to get these people to react so that the guardsmen or now the Marines can come down and quell the insurrection or quell the rioters or whatnot. They want a reaction from the people. And now, since black people are not really protesting like they want, especially black women are not going out there, they are not crushing the protesters like they would in times past. So now they are taking things out on these reporters.
Moving in on horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA.
You just shut the fuck up. You okay?
I'm good.
Now I want to talk about the discourse that I'm seeing around black women and taking a step back. So Keandria says, something about black women setting boundaries really derails our entire society and is fascinating because, before this, you would see black women on the front lines. You would see black women, being loud about it. But after the election, black women, they was like, we did our part. And people are really melting down at the fact that black women have largely stepped back. I am watching what's going on in these social media streets. Radio Randy says it's why they're fascinated and horrified by Michelle Obama, Oprah, and Kamala. This goes back to the old days when black women were taking care of those snot-nosed brats of white families. These men know exactly how powerful black women truly are, is why they sued and canceled that black women-led hedge fund. Dre says, yep, others crash out because they can't get more free labor out of us. Kale says, they crash out so bad. Not just Amwak says, I just don't get it. What is it about black women that they feel so threatened by? Y'all are just trying to live your best lives and somehow that's a bad thing. And then Ashley says, I guess we're already a force, but now we are a force focused on us. And that's the problem because black women have always been seen as the mammies and the mules and the martyrs of society. Like literally we're said to not feel pain. So they want us, they expect us out on the front lines, and black women are like, nah, you got it. And that's what Tabitha Speaks Life says. I guess that she was getting called xenophobic, and she says xenophobic because I, a black woman, isn't going out into the street to protest. Child, call me whatever you want to call me. I'm not protesting. So this is where some women are right now. Let me know what you think about this. Like, comment, share.
Okay, so Gavin Newsom says, you come after my people, you come after me, go ahead and arrest me too. And then Tom Homan is like, okay, yeah, bet, that sounds good. And Donald Trump is like, yeah, Tom, you should do that. And that to me is just so fucking asinine because California didn't bring y'all to the schoolyard, but now that we're here, we're gonna fucking scrap. California will secede from the union so fucking fast, you won't even know it until you look at your wallet and you see it's fucking empty. And why is that? Because California pays $80 billion a year extra in federal taxes. That's $80 billion that we donate to the federal government, money that we don't get back. Which means that if we were to take all of that money that we pay into the federal government and keep it within the state of California, California would have enough to take care of itself and then some. The only reason that California stays in the union with the United States of America is for the military. But now you're sending in the military against us. You're sending in 2,000 National Guard troops, and now you're sending in 700 fucking Marines. You're like, what are we paying the military for? And speaking of paying the military, y'all can't even fucking pay them because I'm seeing pictures of them sleeping on the floor because you guys didn't think about how you were gonna, I don't know, provide shelter for these people or a toilet for them to shit in or even fucking feed them. You didn't really think that through. You just said, oh, you're gonna go there for 30 days. We'll figure it out when we get there. So for those people that are sleeping on the floor in the military, if you would like to join the new California military, feel free to do so because we have the funding to actually pay for your bed. Oh, but you can't pay for their bed because you're too busy paying for your $50 million military parade. Like, give me a break. Obviously, it's nothing to do with the military because if you gave a shit about the military, you wouldn't be canceling VA benefits. You wouldn't be canceling GI bills. You wouldn't be fucking people over with their mental health. You know, veterans who arguably deserve and need their mental health benefits. But we all know that you don't fucking give a shit about the military. You just want to use them as pawns in your own fascist game. But I think a lot of you out there have really underestimated the power of the people in general, but especially California. Because as far as I'm concerned, California and New York, they're like the big kids in the yard. Like, you don't fucking start with them. This administration, starting with them, thought like, oh, we take out the big kids and then all the little kids will go scramble. They didn't think about what's going to happen if you can't take out the big kid, did you? But this administration doesn't think about anything. So it's totally on par where they are. And for that dumb fuck that came in one of my comments and was like, you're just a scared little pussy, you're not going to do anything if anybody shows up. To that, I would say, go ahead and fucking try me, bitch. You think that people in California don't own firearms? You think that people in California don't take martial arts? Well, I've done both. And if you show up at my house uninvited, which you always will be uninvited because I don't allow fucking bigots and racists into my home, then you can fucking find out what happens when you try to come into my home uninvited. It might be the same thing that fucking California does when they are fucking sick and tired of these fucking military people coming into this state uninvited. Now, I don't want a civil war because I don't want people to die unnecessarily. I don't want kids to be parentless. I don't want any of that shit. But at the end of the day, I also don't want fascism. And if that's the price that we have to pay for fascism, I've said it before and I'll say it again, so fucking be it. Again, the American people did not pick this fight. But now that we are in it, then I'm totally fine fucking finishing it. And California, they fucking hold all the cards. So them going after California is the dumbest fuck. But you know what? Everything they do is dumb. So it's again, it makes sense. It makes sense because everything they do is fucking stupid.